Today, we are going to talk about probably the biggest failure other than like E.T. that came out in the early 80s that caused the massive video game crash. I think it was 82, 83. Anyways, we're talking about the biggest failure in recent memory for any game, and that is The Day Before. We found an article from IGN actually that talks about the working conditions and basically the development of the game from beginning to its ultimate demise. So let's get into this article, but before we do that, don't forget guys, mash that like button, comment down below, did you actually get to play The Day Before or did you not? And subscribe because it really does help out the channel a lot. Thank you so much you guys. So let's get into it. More details on The Day Before's collapse emerge, and they're not pretty. That's that's an that's a headline isn't a good one. News reports claim that employees worked under relentless crunches and faced fines for small mistakes, which I don't understand why a company, even an indie company, would be fining their employees for small mistakes. The information surrounding developer Fanatics' December game release the day before just got a lot worse, according to to reports from German game outlet GameStar and Game2. The two sites published their findings from investigation today, explaining that they spoke with 16 former employees from the studio, as well as one volunteer and 7 employees from the publisher Mayatona, to get to the bottom of what happened behind the scenes to result in last year's disastrous release. Ooh, this doesn't sound good. And on top of that, I'm surprised 16 former employees, as well as one volunteer and 7 employees from the publisher, actually spoke out. Right here, it doesn't say that they're former employees of the publisher. Like, usually, most of the time, stuff like this, it takes years for people that actually worked on the project to come out and say anything because of NDAs and stuff like that. So maybe with how bad this is and the company, I guess they didn't have to sign any NDAs or non-disclosure agreements. All right. According to the report, The Day Before wasn't always the highly ambitious game that had been pitched to players for years. It had humble beginnings with 10 members of a 20-person team originally told that they would be working on a top secret but small-scale survival game with a wintry aesthetic and cartoonish visuals. These early details promised a game with a short story, but the changes that soon followed eventually snowballed into a project we would become that would become The Day Before. I think, like, especially with a 10-person team and how small that team is, I I think like a small scale survival game, wintry aesthetics and cartoon visuals would be perfect. Would be perfect. Now, I'm not sure how many they ended up having to work on it because, like, right here it says 16, but 10 people making a game on the scale of The Day Before when it actually became, it's just unrealistic, period. It's going to take the better part of like probably like a decade for like that small of a team to actually do it. Alterations demanded switches to more realistic visuals and larger areas. Reportedly came on suddenly, with the site's sources saying that much of the development team was disappointed by the changes because they were happy with the original plan. Which a small studio like this, an independent studio, where if you're making just a small scale game, like you gotta it's a passion project. It's like I always talk about, everything is a passion project, and if you're passionate about what you're doing, by all means, let's knock it out. As the public caught wind of the ambitious new project, management have fantastic, I can't remember how they pronounce their name. They're closed now, that's all I do know. Leaned in on chasing industry trends, which is bad. And it's one thing that kind of, like, I kind of addressed the other day when I made the video talking about Power World and mobile projects. Like, if you're a small studio, just pursue one thing at a time. Don't chase trends. Don't try to overextend yourself. Like, it's just, it's bad news altogether. On the fly changes coincide with other game releases, as the day before developers were told to imitate features such as character creators from popular titles like Boulder Gate 3, Grand Theft Auto Online, and Hogwarts Legacy. Changes were so frequent that they were essentially three versions of the day before during its development that were all completely different. Like I said, chasing trends like this, you're going to get spread too thin. And I'm like, character building and character creators, like, they're cool. But people are always going to complain. They're always going to be like, well, why can't I do this? Why can't I do that? Where if you just have, 6, 7, 10 predetermined models, by all means, like, just go with it. Um, Unrealistic deadlines, overpromise, and unreasonable demands are said to all stem from Fanatics owner and brother Edward, or have Eduardo, however you pronounce it, and this guy. Some sources say the two company heads were referred to the entire team as a big family just to turn around and put pressure on the staff with spontaneous firings. That right there just doesn't sound, it sounds like a hostile work environment. It just doesn't sound fun. Anyways, these events were often used as a means to motivate the team, with one of the team's 5 testers fired 1 week before after one of the brothers found a bug. It sucks that you find a bug, but there's no reason. Let the man fix it. IGNers reach out to him for comment. Obviously, they're not going to comment. A team member's removal was allegedly attributed to their lack of will, but simply mistakes reportedly came in with a completely different thread. Fines, which I don't think fines are cool, especially like if you're on a crunch and you're doing everything this company is telling you to do, and they're like, you messed up on that, and it's like, well, I didn't get a chance to test it, or I didn't get a chance to actually do it, and they fine you, like, get the hell out of here. Sisters report instances of fines being handed out for small errors, such as when 2 individuals were asked to pay $1,930 for turning in low quality voice recordings. These practices persisted under relentless periods of crunch, with one employee saying they never worked less than 16 hours a day. Bro, I understand that companies do crunches when they have deadlines they have to meet. I mean, it's just like you in grade school or whatever. If you're working on stuff and then like you look at the calendar and you're like, oh snap, I got like 4 days to get this done, then the crunch period comes in. I get that. It happens. But bro, 16 hours a day and you're still in crunch time? Over the last year and a half, I haven't had a Saturday off, and for the last 2 months, I haven't had a day off at all. I hope to God these individuals got paid. I highly doubt it, but like, oh man, drastic extended work days or 0 days off for months seems to be a common occurrence among the Fantastic staff, with one source saying they found themselves begging for a few hours break just to find time for a shower or meal, just to get basic needs done. Like, hey man, I'm hungry, I need to go get something to eat, and your boss is like, no, get out of here. And the worst part is this is definitely like, let me finish this article and then I'll get into more thoughts about it. The Day Before finally came to the world on December 7th, 2023, and was quickly followed by a wave after wave of controversy. Fanatics has since announced that it will be shutting down, declaring the project a financial failure. The studio then promised buyers refunds while writing off their shortcomings with the response, "This was our first big experience. Shit happens." Bro, get out of here. No, It wasn't it wasn't long before the announcement came that the servers would be shutting down. The game's official closure arrived just last week on January 22nd. And our 1 out of 10, the day before early access review, we said the day before is easily one of the worst games I've ever played, to the point where I'm afraid to continue running it on the PC. And if you don't manage to try it out, you can count yourself as one of the lucky ones. Okay, so my thoughts after watching gameplay, I was not able to like buy the game because by the time I went to go buy it, they had already pulled it from the shelves. And by shelves, I mean Steam. But definitely, I feel bad for the individuals that really poured their heart and soul into this game, especially since the beginning. It sounded like it was going to be a passion project. Hey, let's build a small, survival game, snowy biomes with a short story. Something that's manageable. Instead, it just snowballed and snowballed and snowballed because the two guys at the top wanted to chase the industry trends. And hopefully the people that were affected by this are able to continue their careers, not feel terrible about working in the industry because like but at the same token, I kind of want to be like, "Hey, was this a shell? Like like did they do this on purpose just to like recoup money because they realized they were going to lose that much money on said game?" It's just mind-blowing to me. Like I don't get it. I mean, at the same token, another example of a game that got pushed way too early was Cyberpunk, and that was only to keep the investors happy. Now, one thing they didn't state in here was this game funded by somebody? Were they really pushing to get it out there? Like stuff like that. When I heard about this game being launched, I was like, wow. I saw a bunch of trailers. I saw a bunch of stuff. Kind of got me hyped. And of course, I saw a bunch of stuff talking about how they were ripping from other games. And this article definitely tells me they had influences from other games. I don't know. Like, I don't know how it's going to impact it that much. Anyways, you guys, we're going to cut it right there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Don't forget to mash that like button. Comment down below. What are your thoughts on the day before? Do you think that this article correctly represents what happened with the game? Or do you think that there's more to this? I mean, now granted, a lot of this was like just an overview. But like just reading this, I'm like, doesn't look good for that main company. Good thing they're closed. Anyways, don't forget to mash the like button, comment down below, and subscribe. It really does help out the channel a lot. Thank you so much, you guys, and y'all take it easy. Bye.